Memento Mori. PewDiePie made a video called How to Be Happy tutorial. It was a video talking about the idea of socialism and how people who practice it choose not to fear or feel anger towards death, but to see it as an uncontrollable force. Death is unavoidable and is fated for most of us. You, me, our loved ones, we all have our paths that interconnect and lead to a different way of life until we reach the end. Sadly, this logic must also apply to the heroes we look up to. Marvel's The End one-shot is a series of stories that deals with timelines and scenarios that lead to certain heroes becoming the last person on the planet and faced with a situation that usually leads to either their deaths or a tragic ending. This leads me to mentioning the point of the video, Hulk the End. Hulk the End is a one-off story that takes place in a timeline where Bruce Banner and the Hulk are the last living humans on Earth. After a nuclear fallout ended up wiping out most of humanity, a camera named Vidbot, sent to Earth by an alien species called the Recorders, is sent to Earth to observe Bruce, as he is the last human on Earth. Bruce at this point is much older and had been wandering the Earth for years in his own sorrow. He has no one left, no one to talk to, his friends are all dead, his love Betty is dead, he has no one to cope with, not even himself. So he wanders great bounds just to see the destroyed world left over by the devastation. On the other side of the spectrum we have Hulk. Hulk is infuriated by Bruce because with Banner alive, he can never truly be alone. One of the things Hulk wants more in this world is for nothing to threaten him, nothing to be in his way. He believes that friends only betray him and use him for what he can do. This is an interesting contrast between both characters, as one wants the life and happiness he feels he deserves, while Hulk wants to push those petty ideas to make himself stronger and prove he is the strongest. Banner eventually runs into mutant cockroaches that try to feast on him, but they are eventually squashed by the Hulk. This leads to showing their different desires are for the end. Where Hulk wants to prove himself the strongest on Earth, Bruce simply wants to die, to put an end to his suffering, but the Hulk won't let him die. In a cruel twist of fate, Hulk will not allow Banner to die. Bruce makes many attempts to die, but each prove unsuccessful due to Hulk coming out and stopping him. He doesn't do this to save Banner, and not because Hulk wants him to live, but simply to torture him, keeping Banner away from his end merely to keep him in his own personal hell. All Banner can do is wait until he is allowed to die, waiting longer until death greets him at last. They go into a cave, and Banner sets up a place for himself to rest, but here we are close to the end. Bruce has a dream about a woman who appears to him in the form of the woman he loved long ago, Betty Ross. He becomes youthful, and they are finally allowed to be in each other's embrace. The illusionary Betty states that the two of them will be like gods. Suddenly, Bruce awakens in a violent manner. He's slowly dying. He awakens to having a painful heart attack. His body is old and has lived longer than it should have. This makes Banner think about how similar his punishment is to that of Prometheus, the last Titan who was condemned to stay alive forever while suffering being eaten by animals. Pain that never ends, eternal suffering, bleeding out and being torn to bits, but unable to end it in death. As he is finally in the brink of death, he attempts to settle his conflicts with the Hulk as he arises from Banner's mind. He pleads with Hulk to let go of his conflicts, his pain, and in letting go, they would make it to a beautiful afterlife with their late friends, finally happy. Hulk declines to let go. He claims that friends have nothing but betrayed him, and so he chooses not to pass on with Banner, metaphorically locking him in his own subconscious. A storm erupts. Banner walks out, but not as Banner, but as Hulk. Banner's punishment continues within the Hulk. Hulk the End and the rest of the End series are interesting to read because they touch on the heavy subject on how superheroes would deal with humanity ending as a whole. These stories remind us that even the seemingly immortal can be just as mortal as us. That even the superpowered, radioactive, alien, enhanced, and mutated will die someday. Death is cruel and unfair, but we cannot fear it. There is no point in fearing the inevitable. And no, I'm not referencing Thanos. This brings us back to the beginning of this video essay and why I made this video, as a reminder that we all have a part in this world, whether we choose to believe it or not. And fear shouldn't be where we show death, but acknowledgement of our happiness, the memories we made in life, and our impact on people. We must remember that death is always ready for you, and we shouldn't fear it. Memento Mori, remember death.